My name is Dr. Shaili Mehta, and I'll be helping you how to prepare for general surgery. General surgery is a vast topic for MBBS student, and for BDS, it is very important that we have a concise and a precise knowledge for your NEET MDS exam. So in this video, we'll talk how to stepwise break down general surgery so that it's easier for you. Whenever you start any subject, you have certain doubts, such as what is the weightage of this subject, which books to refer for this subject, how much time should be allocated to this subject, and what should be the topic-wise distribution of time. How many number of times should this subject be revised? What is the ideal time to start this subject? The important topic for NEET MDS and the type of questions that are asked in your NEET MDS exam. So if these doubts are bothering you, I hope this video helps you. Now moving on to the weightage of general surgery in your NEET MDS exam. So approximately 2 to 8 questions out of the 240 questions that are asked in your NEET exams are from general surgery. This accounts approximately for 2% of your total paper. Now moving on to which books you should refer for surgery. So there are two standard textbooks, that one is Bailey and Love, that's an international author, and the other one is S. Das. So if you are an intern or post intern and if you have been reading any other books, it's totally fine. Don't change any textbook at this point of time. If you are in third year or final year, these are the textbooks you should read. Now when it comes to general surgery, if you are an intern or post intern, it advised that you spend a little bit time on theory because it's a third year subject and you might not remember everything of it. So it's important to focus a little bit on theory as well. The next thing, how much time should be allocated to this subject? So this subject you can complete within 10 to 15 days, and out of these 10 to 15 days, you can give 4 days to your theory. Now, if you think you are a little weak or a little underconfident, you can give more time to theory, there's no problem. But ideally, you should complete this subject within 10 to 15 days. Next is what should be the time allocated to each topic. So for theory reading, you can give around 3 to 4 hours for each topic, and for MCQ practice, you can give around 6 to 8 hours. Now, how many times this subject should be revised? So ideally, you should revise your general surgery anywhere between 4 to 6 times. The revision goes as, suppose I start with my oral surgery today, and within 10-15 days, I'll complete my oral surgery. And then after a week, I'll begin with my second revision. So my second revision would be of a shorter duration, let's say 7 to 10 days. So I'm done with my second revision also. Then I'll not touch my general surgery for 1 month. After that, I'll do my third revision. And then consecutively, when you have your grand test, your mock test, or whatever test that you're giving, you can revise it. So in your entire course of preparation, from the day you start preparing for oral surgery till your exam, you have to revise it anywhere between 4 to 6 times minimum. Next is, what is the ideal time to start this subject? So if you divide your preparation into 4 quarters, the third quarter, after completing 13 to 14 subjects, you can start with your general surgery preparations. So now we'll talk about the important topics of thyroid gland. First is embryology of thyroid. So here you need to know the development of thyroid, the defects in the development of thyroid gland, and from exactly which point, which part of the thyroid is derived. Next is the anatomy, the capsules of thyroid, the length, the dimensions of thyroid gland is about the isthmus, then the lobes, blood supply, nerve supply, parathyroid glands, and when it comes to blood supply, it's important to know why what is the location of ligation of superficial thyroid artery, what is the location of ligation of inferior thyroid artery, what is the reason behind it, is it ligated away from the gland towards the gland, all those things. Next is physiology. So here T3, T4, your LATs, then which is more potential, the action of T3, T4 in case of deficiency, what is given, all that is important. Next we move on to the diseases of thyroid gland. Here it's very important to know the classification of the diseases. So you have goiter, then you need to know the difference between thyrotoxicosis. So you need to know the difference between primary and secondary thyrotoxicosis. All in case you have hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism, so the difference between the symptoms of the two. Then there is something called as a vein diagnostic index, so that's basically your signs and symptoms. So suppose you have palpation present, so that's you have palpitation, so that is +2, or you have exophthalmos, so that's suppose +3. So that +3 is in case of hyperthyroidism. What is the counterpart for hypothyroidism? That's important. Then when it comes to your hyperthyroidism, you need to know about eye signs. So all your eye signs, there are around 6 eye signs. So you need to know the name and what it exactly means. So you have Lidlac sign, that is your Von Jeffries sign. So there are 6, 7. So all those eye signs are very important. Your in case you have hyperthyroidism, so what is the effect of hyperthyroidism on your eye, on your digestive system, on your cardiovascular system, on your breathing, and on your on your sweating, that's your perspiration. All that is important, whether in hyperthyroidism there is preference for cold, preference for hot, all those things. And another important thing is to know about the weight gain, whether weight is gained or weight is lost in hyperthyroidism. Next is Graves' disease. So again, the causes of Graves' disease, then the treatment of Graves' disease. Next, we come on to the treatment of thyroid disease. So here it's important to know the drugs, that's the pharmacological method and the surgical method. So in pharmacological method, you need to know the drugs, in case which drug is teratogenic, at what age which type of drug is given. Then we move on to the surgical part. Surgical, you need to know all the different types of thyroidectomy that are done. So you need to have a partial, hemi thyroidectomy, then you have your total thyroidectomy, then whether your parathyroid glands are preserved, not preserved, in which surgery it is preserved, in which surgery it is not preserved, all those things. Then the last part is radiotherapy. So you need to know about radiotherapy, what is used for radiotherapy, at what age radiotherapy is preferred. So if you have a patient of 45 years or 45 above patient, a male patient, so what will you prefer, radiotherapy, surgery, or your drugs? So that's what they can ask a direct question on this as a case-based question. Next is tumor of thyroid. So there are 4 types of tumor. You need to know the difference between the 4 types of tumor. It has to be done in detail. You need to know which shows calcium, which shows an amyloid deposit, which has poor prognosis, which needs total thyroidectomy, which needs partial thyroidectomy, all those things. Then the different forms of thyroiditis, the cause of thyroiditis, the signs and symptoms, and the treatment. Then we come to salivary gland cancer. So here everything mostly will be covered from your oral pathology. So your signs and symptoms, your the basic histopathology behind the tumor, behind the salivary gland tumor, the classification of salivary gland tumor. Here what you need to know is about parodectomy. So when you have your parotid gland, so what is the surgery, how it is done, what incisions are given, all those things. Then we move on to infection. So the first type is your tetanus. So for tetanus, you need to know what is the toxins of tetanus, tetanolysin, tetanosplasmin, which causes what types of tetanus, the mode of entry of tetanus, what is the etiopathogenesis behind tetanus, and finally the treatment and the vaccination for tetanus, and what is the regime for your tetanus vaccination. Next is gas gangrene. So the organism, mode of entry, etiopathogenesis, the types of gas gangrene. So here you have your fulminating type, then you have your single muscle type or your massive muscle type. All those things are important. That is basically the type of gas gangrene. Again, how will you prevent gas gangrene and what is the treatment for gas gangrene? Next is boil. So for boil, your organism is important, the common location and the signs and symptoms. When it comes to abscess, is very important. So you need to know about pyogenic acid, pyemic acid, then cold abscess. So cold abscess, the stages of cold abscess, in which condition it causes, your stud collar abscess, and basically all the stages of your tuberculous abscess. Then for abscess, it's important to know your your drainage of matter. That's your Hilton's drainage of matter. Next is carbuncle. Again, the organism appearance. So carbuncle has a specific appearance. It's leaf-like or cribriform appearance. That's important to know. Then the treatment and signs and symptoms for carbuncle. For cellulitis, organism is important. Difference between cellulitis and abscess is important. The treatment of cellulitis is important. Then we move on to traumatology. So for traumatology, your head injury is very important. So here you need to know when there is injury to your anterior cranial fossa, which nerves are damaged, what are the signs and symptoms, what happens when middle cranial fossa and what happens in posterior cranial fossa. Then it's important to know about the various location of various nerves. Then in which case will you have like when you have a trauma, so which nerves or which vessels can get damaged. So when you have extradural hemorrhage, so what vessels are damaged and what can be the signs and symptoms. So the most important part there comes your lucid interval. There are certain signs such as Victor Horsley sign, then your Huntington's pupil. All those things are important. Again, in head injury, your concussion, contusion, and laceration. The difference between the three and what exactly happened. The signs and symptoms of the three are important to know. Next, we move on to fractures and dislocation. So here you need to know the different types of fracture and when what happens in malunion. And when you have any fracture, so what amount of blood is lost and how will you compensate for the blood loss. And here again shock becomes an important part, because when you have trauma there's a lot of blood loss, so because of that you can have shock. So what is the treatment for shock and how will you compensate for the blood loss. Next is cleft lip, cleft palate. So here the development of cleft lip, cleft palate, that goes back to your embryology, the etiopathogenesis, I mean the etiology, why it causes, and the pathogenesis, what exactly happens, why do you have a unilateral cleft, why do you have a bilateral cleft, there is malunion between what parts of the face, at what age it is commonly seen in vitro, and according to the treatment. So there is an entire time lapse. So approximately around 15 to 18 years you give your rhinoplasty, then around 5 to 8 or 8 to 10 years you give your orthognathic surgeries. So all those things, your secondary alveolar grafting, your primary alveolar grafting, at what age is it done? Is it before canine eruption, after canine eruption? What is the reason for that? That's important. When it comes to surgery part, then here the different types of surgery, which is used for unilateral cleft, which is used for bilateral cleft, and which is used for your cleft lip, cleft palate, all those surgeries are important. Next, we move on to the swellings. So the first thing is swelling in head and neck. This involves your cyst. So for cyst, all your cysts that are given in your textbook are important. You need to know what is implantation cyst, sequestration cyst, how does it occur. Then your sebaceous cyst, and yeah, that's important. Sebaceous cyst. The next thing is all your swellings of your neck. So here you have your brachial cyst. So for any swelling, you need to know the location, how it arises, what are the signs and symptoms, any pathognomic feature, and the treatment. So, for example, you have cystic hygroma. So, how does it occur? At what age it occurs? Location in the neck where it occurs, and it has a characteristic feature of trans illumination. So that is positive in cystic hygroma. And finally, the treatment. So the same goes for your brachial cyst, your thyroglossus cyst, how it develops, what is the treatment, all those things. Next is the ulcers of head and neck. So here, all your ulcers, the margins of ulcers are very important. The base of ulcer is very important. Then different types and etiology of those ulcer, and finally the treatment. So you have your venous ulcer, diabetic ulcer, then you have your Marjolie's ulcer, then you have your chiropathic ulcers. All those things are important. Whatever is given in your textbook and you have done that in your BDS, that's important. Again, with ulcers, it's important to know about gangrene, so wet gangrene, dry gangrene, the treatment, the different signs and symptoms, the causes of wet and dry gangrene, that's important to know. When it comes to tumor of head and neck, most of the part will be covered in oral pathology, so you just need to focus on a little bit on your signs and symptoms. Then you need to have a gist idea about the diseases of larynx and pharynx. Next is burns. So in burns, you need to know the types of burn, the degrees of burn, your degree, first degree burn, second degree burn, third degree burn, signs and symptoms, whether it occurs by the healing occurs by primary intention, secondary intention. Then you need to know the different types of burn, that is your chemical burn, moist heat burn, your skates. Then you have your electrical burns, all those things. Then when it comes to burn, there's a lot of fluid loss. So how will you compensate for fluid? Then the last thing about burns is to know about your skin graft. So partial thickness graft, full thickness graft, what is the advantage, what is the disadvantage, what is the different name of these grafts, and from what are the sources that you can obtain the grafts from. Then that's about it. That's what you need to know in burns. In case of severe burns, whether you have acidosis, whether you have alkalosis, what are the biochemical changes that occur, what is the relation of burns to your so NaCl levels in your body, that's important to know. Next is fluid management. So you all the different fluids, your dextrose, then your saline. So what is the exact composition of all the fluids that are available? Then in which condition will you will administer what? So when will you administer your dextrose? When will you administer plain saline? So and what are the reasons for it? So and in case you administer it in high amounts, so whether it will be it will cause hypercalcemia, hyperkalemia, all those things are important. For understanding that, you need to know your physiology well, and you need to know the composition of the agents well. Then for fluid management, it's important to know how will you calculate the amount of blood loss, what are the methods of calculating the amount of blood loss, and what are the ways of replacing blood. So first thing is to replace your plasma or the fluid loss in your body, and second thing is to replace your blood. So for blood, here comes your transfusion, all your AB grouping and all those things. Then you have what are the disorder, what are the signs and symptoms in case there is a reaction of the host body towards the donor blood. Then when it comes to your blood, it's important to know how will you judge whether the patient needs transfusion or blood transfusion or fluid transfusion, in which cases only blood can be given, what are the substitutes for blood, so what is cryoprecipitate, what are substitutes for blood that can be given in cases of hemophilia, all those things. Next is your healing, wound healing. So in wound healing, you need to know primary intention, healing by secondary intention. What is the difference? It's here important to know about cleoid, everything about cleoid. How do you treat it? What are the signs and symptoms? What is the cause of it? That's important to know in your wound healing. Next one, another important part is your atrial and venous disorder. So here, the first thing that comes is your varicose vein. So everything about varicose vein. Then you have something called as intermittent pain, rest pain. So intermittent claudation and rest pain. What is it? How does that differ? And what are the tests to diagnosis? How will you treat it? Then we move on to Reynolds phenomena. So here again, in which condition it is seen? It's seen mostly in female and under cold weather. Then you about Reynolds syndrome, you also need to know that it's associated with CREST syndrome. So you need to know about CREST syndrome. How will you treat Reynolds phenomena? How will you prevent Reynolds phenomena? Then there's something called as Berger's disease. So the etiology, the common cause, it usually causes in male between the age of 20 to 40. What is the etiopathogenesis, in which veins, large vessels, small vessels, and finally what is the treatment for your Berger's disease. That's what you need to know. This is the minimum actually what you need to know for oral surgery. Anything add on to it is most welcome and that will benefit you. Now moving on to the type of question that are asked in your NEET exam from general surgery. The first is a single best answer where you have four options and one of them is a correct answer. The first one is case based question. So here you might have a case that a patient presents to you at a very early stage, and they might give you that the transillumination test is positive. So you have to diagnose that it is cystic hygroma, then you have to give the treatment for the same. The same thing can be asked in another disease. For example, they can ask you about your thyroglossal fistula. Then there is six trunk operation that is specific for your thyroglossal fistula. So that can be asked to you. The next is a fact-based question or a memory-based question. Here, all your wound healing agents. So there are certain times you have the factors that promote wound healing, that inhibit wound healing. So all those things are fact-based, memory-based. Here you can have a question on cleft lip, cleft palate, that cleft lip is more prominent in male or female, or which side unilateral cleft lip is common in which side, left side or right side. The next part is a concept-based question. So here you might have concept related to your blood transfusion. So they might ask you that the patient has lost this much amount of blood. How will you replace it? Or in case you have a patient of bone, so how will you replace the blood? Then in case you have blood transfusion, so what are the changes in your iron level? So which causes your hypokalemia, hyperkalemia, calcemia, what all those things. That's a concept-based question basically. Next come is a numerical value, or this will involve your all the values. For example, how do you calculate the replacement of blood that is required in injury? Then your second would be the calculating the amount of burn. This is a very common question. They give you a diagram or they tell that the forearm is burned or something like that. Then you, based on the rule of 9, you have to guess how much percentage burn the person has. Next type of question is an image based question where you have an image and you have to guess on this. So here again your rule of 9 is very important. They might give you a diagram on healing and they might ask you whether it's healing by primary intention, secondary intention, all those things. The next here is true or false type of question. So you might have a statement and then you have to, based on the statement, you have to say whether it's true or false. So here all your classifications, especially the classification of hemorrhage becomes very important. So they might ask you that reactionary hemorrhage occurs after, suppose they ask you reactionary hemorrhage occurs after 24 hours. So is this true or false? So all those things can be asked to you as a true or false type of question. So this is the pattern that they usually ask in your NEET exams. So that's how you prepare for general surgery. Now, general surgery is a third year subject, so it's okay to spend a little bit time on your theory and brush up on your theory. Have your concepts clear. Remember all the diagrams and the tables that are given in your textbook, and general surgery should be fine. And practice whenever you're solving MCQ, try focusing on the explanation part of each MCQ for general surgery since you cannot study everything. And that's how you prepare for general surgery. I hope this video was helpful. All the best, guys. If you have any further doubts, please mention it in the comment section and we will solve it. If you want to know more about tips and tricks on how to crack your NEET and AIMS exam, you can follow me on Instagram. My handle name is Dr. Shelly Mehta. If you want to see more of these kind of videos, please do like, share and subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell icon to get a notification whenever we upload a new video. Don't forget to download the app. The link is given in the description box. Thank you.